Identities Part 2. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. We proved these two in class today. We haven't proved the tangent one, but we will soon. So without further ado, copy these down and make sure you have them. We'll be using these for the remainder of the video. So pause, pause, pause. If you're watching it, then you're ready to keep moving. So look, double angle identities are exactly what you'd expect. It's sine of, we'll say 2a. That's a double angle, all right? And we want this to equal something because it does. It's an identity. But we're gonna prove what it equals. In fact, we'll do it just like we've been doing everything else. I know that this is 2 sine a cosine a. And we're going to prove that that's the case. How can I prove this? I'm going to use these additive identities. So it's sine of 2a. That's like saying sine of a plus a. Right? So now I'm saying, here's the proof. So sine of 2a is like saying a plus a, right? That's 2a. You're good with that? Good. Let's keep going. And that, according to the formula right here, sine of a plus b, that's the same thing as saying sine of a cosine of a, see, sine of a cosine of a, plus, what does the rest of it say? Sine of a cosine of a. Now, why do all of these say a and this says a and b? Because here, we're adding two different angles. We're adding a and b. Here, we're adding the exact same angle, so I just get to write a in all those spots. All right, now I'm going to just see, let's see, I've got one and I've got two of the exact same thing. This is literally the same thing, so these are like terms, so I can add them together. How many do I have? Well, I have 2 sine a cosine a, and that is what I was trying to show, so I did it. More to take down. So you should focus on this section, the half angle, and then, so go ahead and pause it and take that all down. By the way, we'll be proving this tangent additive identity in class. I'm assuming you've taken it down now. Now we're going to look at these 4 double angles. So these are the identities, and we need to establish proofs for all of the rest. I'm only going to establish one of these 4 proofs, and you will bring me these proofs completed. Now, I know that this cosine 2a has to eventually equal this stuff. And I know that I can use the same kind of trick that I did up here with the sine of 2a. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to say the cosine of 2a is equal to the cosine of a plus a, which by the additive identity is this stuff. So I know that I'm writing cosine a and sine a. So let's do that. Back, there we go. So I know that by the identity I can rewrite this as cosine a minus sine a, which to simplify is simply cosine squared a minus sine squared a. Now my identity says I need 2 cosines, subtract 2 cosines squared minus 1. I can't have any signs, right? There's no signs in here, so that means I have to find a way to get rid of that sign. Now the easiest thing that I know is to use that old Pythagorean identity. And we know that sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. I'm going to do just like I did earlier today. I'm going to isolate for sine squared, so I'm going to subtract cosine squared from both sides. That gives me sine squared equals 1 minus cosine squared. So notice I've asterisked these, I've starred these, that means that these aren't part of the problem, but they're what I'll be using. So now I'm going to rewrite this part of the problem, cosine squared A minus, but instead of writing a sine squared, notice I used a parenthesis here. Instead of writing sine squared, I'm going to write 1 minus cosine squared, because we said they're the same thing, the exact same thing. Now I'm going to distribute this stuff out. So cosine squared A minus 1 minus 1, that's plus cosine squared A. How many cosines do I have? Well, I have 1 cosine squared here, 2 cosine, so I have 2 cosine squared A minus 1. That's what I was trying to show. I just proved it. Done. Here's a closer look at that proof. Now, the rest of those that I leave as an exercise. So rewind your video, make sure you've got all of this stuff down. Those are an exercise. Furthermore, this stuff over here, and by this stuff I mean any of these, absolutely any of these, including the identities we proved, including cosine, yeah, including those, any of these are fair game when we get to the proving trig identities quiz. Absolutely any of these.